he bless his heart.
Yes.
Bless his Christmas soul. Really wanted to cast this. He really wanted to work over the weekend. Accidents happen, and we literally forced him.
And that's how we're here.
And that's why we're here. We forced him to get checked out. Ooh. Coastline is where we're going to find ourselves here, and this is a map that both these teams could be a little bit spicy.
Yeah, it's going to be an explosive map. It's a map that Europe back in the day used to be really comfortable on. Empire's had, of course, their famous match against G2. We're going to keep talking about that, by the way, for the next 10 years to Rainbow Six. We will never shut up about it. BDS has played 1,000,001 Coastlines. This is just another addition to them. Buck banned out first, then Nomad. This makes sense. You want to reduce the amount of flexibility that attackers can have, because Buck is such a powerful operator. Not only can you do soft breach, but also the hard breach tool, the can opener, as they say. Nomad out to allow you to be more maneuverable around the map. Melusi and Valkyrie banned out just because you want to be also more comfortable. You don't want to be constantly harassed by Melusi's wubs, but all around the map and on site specifically. That billiard stick and even on kitchen can get quite complicated with her in play. And finally, Valkyrie, you don't want to be always, check that. You always feel that somebody's watching you when Valkyrie is available. So take it out, no problem. And now we're heading into it. This is round 1, and we got BDS to go up against Team Empire, the best 2 in Europe, France and Russia, and we're in wintertime. Damn, usually that's usually a tough one to deal with, not gonna lie.
Well, obviously we have a little bit of a story coming into this game, in that one of the most exciting games coming out of the Mexico Major was the BDS Empire Showdown, was the decider of the only non-Latin American team to feature in a final, in a major final across the entirety of the year. And Empire were the ones that took it, and Coastline was that middle map. It was a bit of the turning ground, because Cafe, the Dostoevsky, opened up into BDS's favor, and then Coast was the 7-5, and then ended on the 8-7 Stormer of Consulate, which obviously we don't get, unfortunately, a rematch on.
We tried.
Tried to pull some strings.
We unfortunately couldn't get in for this series. That's a heartbreaker. Actually, it's the first time I get to cast Coastline with its quote-unquote new additions and changes that they've had or had added to this map. So there you go. Big shout out, by the way, to our observer Medics, who will be taking us through this map. Now we have him on the line just in case. See standard reinforcements in the lounge and not really much else that is different anyway. Rensure though, this is the one we're looking at. Extension all the way into the bedroom lounge area with Rensure in. Oh, there he is! Dan is down first, and that's through the drone hole. Rensure left with just a bit of HP, but Scyther can do a lot on the Finca. One of the things that he cannot do is revive fallen teammates.
No, and there's your comparison opener there, Tim, for what you were breaking down on the desk. You wanted to pull anybody, well, they've pulled each other. It's the first card, the first body, and the first fight that happens to start to explode here. Coast is steel. Okay, it's had a couple of tweaks, but it has these extensions. It's still kind of paper thin, and it's still one where you can sort of get from top to bottom in a very quick burst and bout of pace. Here, they're going for the double wall over VIP. That is a new addition. They're making sure they get a bit of a stretch and a bit of a swing through. Scythe is going to be the start of the Hall of Fame climb. They've got that double wall popped open with at least an angle, so it will force any players a little bit further out, apart from the one in Projector, who's hiding, just patiently waiting behind the shield, but you know momentarily he's going to be out on a bout of pressure. A couple of grenades, a lot of bodies, a lot of noise, and LMs. He's about to be facing a fury from the Russians.
There's a grenade in. It's going to force him back with the shield taken down. Rensure had rotated back, but there's the loss. Alems is down, but he's able to trade out with Scyther. That was on the nose. There's the Nitro out to end. Perfect timing. You saw Shaiko swapping with Rensure to get his teammate back in space, and Shaiko's downstairs in kitchen to find the kill on Joystick. A 4v2. That's a hell of a way to start things out, and on the defense of all places.
The trade, very important there, and obviously one of those effects of sort of digging in and clawing your position as much as he did. There were opportunities to get out of there. There was time to potentially find somewhere else, but with how much pressure was sort of boiling down, it would have been a turn tail and probably have that tail filled with bullets. Over a minute left just about, and there's still a lot of players left to try and dig out. They have a very firm control over Vars, and the single player of the swing is all that's really needed, especially with the hole underneath the default. It means that there is this consistent pressure and presence, and they're trying to work out if they can at least pinch one player away from the possibility of just what can we do here.
So Shepard watching. It's two players. You have to split up between two parts of the map and always checking Aqua opening up that big window. I'm not sure if it's going to help much here, but hey, you have those mechanics down in your brain. You're going to deal with them anyways. Shepard just opening up an extra angle to check down into Hookah as always. Kind of faking the rotate, not too sure what to do himself with 15 seconds left. This push has to happen. The flash is all over. Shepard will find one, but Shaiko refrags on the always, taking him down, leaving Shepard all alone. And the wall is opened up right next to him. It's all completely soft. He goes in for the smoke, gets one kill, but both angles locked in by BDS. Renshiro finds the last one, opens it, and closes the first round. Beautiful play by BDS and Renshiro, especially in this map. That drone hole in bathroom, something the French were so good at in the day. Man, there's so many memories of even... It's weird to say this, but...
The olden days?
The olden, yeah. It is going to be a lot of...
Do you remember?
Do you remember back in the day? Yeah, when people played Glass. With a lie down as a glass and look down that drone hole in bathroom and find somebody that was just reinforcing or doing whatever. That was the heyday of French Siege in those times. And hey, a bit of it still survives that legacy to this day.
So Empire, they found themselves a little bit slowed. They were cautious on that approach by the end of it because they lost so much coming into it. There was a big fight on the opposite side of the map, which, to be fair to them, they took. They obviously lost Dan early on, and he double-peeked back into that fight. And I guess that's those early round, early lessons. Are these going to be fights that they keep consistently trying to take throughout the day? The trade, it was unfortunate, but those happen. And then obviously losing the man immediately after from the C4, it just sort of showed the chaos that Coastline can offer. It's never really safe anywhere, and that's the big problem with it. And that's the problem that Empire seem to find themselves in, to the point where in the final 20 seconds, they just threw themselves in and actually got deeper than I think they expected to.
Yeah, I think your description of Coastline earlier in last round was perfect. It's paper thin. Might be a big map, but it is paper thin. There's a lot of open spaces that you can deal with, and the Oryx is exactly what can use and abuse this. And even though the Oryx, let's be honest, 99.99% of the time in competitive play will never be able to show off the skills that actually exist, the mechanics of the actual operator, the fact that it's always a threat that might happen, that keeps it in your mind. It's like Capcan Trap, where there's Capcan always on the map. You have to constantly keep looking around just in case you walk into one of the traps and you lose 60 of your health points. So always keeping that in the back of your mind means droning and positioning are going to be hyper important here for Empire. Something that they couldn't lock down in the first round. So BDS, what do? They double down on it and bring the extra mobility for the second one.
The drones buzzing away across the top. They're going to see if they can get some handle on the potential of the players creeping themselves. It is a bit of a top floor control, and Shaiko's C4 doesn't net the same rewards it has before, but it's opened the door, or at least underneath it. And it gives them that angle on anyone that might try and slip their way through. Renshiro on this roll, I know we always sort of cite it as the possibilities of an Oryx, and they're probably better here than on any other map, but at the same time, it's still just possibilities. It's so often caught out, and obviously this time round, the Nomad's gone, sure as it was before, but it still takes a lot of confidence to go for those fights, and you can see BDS, they're kind of suffering on them right now on that desk.
I mean, honestly, congrats to Empire. They got onto this top floor and started breaking things open within the first minute of the round. There's barely any damage that was done in between. Only Rafael took a bit, and Shaiko is down a bit more. Why? Because there's players locking down that top floor. Because vertical play is so important. It's always what you should be thinking about in your head, not just in competitive play, but if you're at home, if you're playing with your friends, this is the first thing you do. Take vertical, and suddenly this round is so much easier. The Ella is constantly being tracked in here. In security, finally the drone is down. Rafael will walk away knowing that he cannot engage that effectively. The CZ can do a lot of work up close, but, it's Renshiro to open it up on the joystick.
There it is, pushed around, you assume from the back of Aqua to take the fight onto luggage. Joystick was a little bit locked in, and that allows Rafael to actually come a little bit further back into security. They're trying to remove him, because that security extension is such a big play onto that front door. There's the catch and the return onto Renshiro. The Echo drone pops a little bit too late, and Scythe is able to be a little bit sharp just to stop that resurgence and that swing round. But yet again, we find ourselves with only 20 seconds, and Alam's down the long shot. shot finds the corridor and stops Dan being able to swing through for the second round in a row with the grenade instantly battling back. Scyther trying to claw themselves through, and suddenly it's still back and forth. Brede puts them into the 2 versus 1. Scyther with 10 seconds and an unfortunate reveal as he has to hop through the window, but out of time, out of hope, and yet again, that 6th man is being the big question mark right now. They cannot quite get it locked in, and BDS lock in their second.
What do? They identify the goal. What is it? This is an objective-based game. So your win condition is, as an attacker, is plant a diffuser and defuse the bomb. Simple as that. But when you're dropping it out in the open, because the Habana was, they needed to push in and take the gunfight, suddenly you're left with no option. Easy kill there for the Alibi. The Habana taken down, diffusers on the floor, and instantly pinged, info relayed to your teammate, spread out. You know that the Finca's far away, and just play it cool. You don't have to overpeak. Time is on your side, and the moment the Finca fired in through the Alibi hologram, you knew exactly where she was. Just leave it be. Don't engage. Smart play. BDS cautious, and they collect the, in my opinion, minimum rounds that you need on defense. What you're expecting to have is a 4-2 at the half for the attacking side. 2 rounds for defense, not too shabby. You make it 3-3 at the half. That's looking really, really good for when you swap. So BDS off to a good start.
It's a cautious approach from Empire, and I think that's a bit of the problem. And I know they were quick to get into the building, but sometimes it's more than just being quick. You've got to actually make use of what you do next. And we've seen plenty of teams and plenty of players over the years be able to get into these positions very quickly. They'll start doing some structural work, but if it's not coming to an avail, if we saw Rafale able to bite back and retake some land, if they're not able to make anything work with that information that they've got, well, that's what Empire were at their worst. That was Empire at the beginning of 2021, in their own words, where they couldn't quite make those marks hit the mark.
Look at Dan. Every single time he's going to be walking by through the spawn, he's going to be checking to make sure there's nobody in the bathroom. And that loses you a couple of seconds. A couple of seconds that are extremely important for you on Coastline, where things can go really, really fast. And despite the timing that Empire had in our last round, they could not actually convert their position, the prime stake A5 Wagyu position, into an actual advantage by taking out opponents, because BDS peeled away. And they knew, hey, if you're going to cluster all your players upstairs, we're just not going to care about it. And here, top floor control is also extremely important for the double bars, but defense are going to be more spread out on that top floor. And because of the extra reinforcements, Alem's dipping and dodging through those bullets. He's going to just need to survive and burn as much time as possible.
That's it, a spicy peel away as they've sort of tried to propagate themselves against the drone amount. Obviously doubling down with the Vigil and the Mozzie. It's a very short play space. It's a very tight and narrow area, and that means that those lines are a lot wibblier and wobblier on multiple different angles, and it puts a little bit more caution into what has already been, as I said, a cautious approach from Team Empire. Alems is just going to stick himself down at the bottom of white, with Renshiro going to draw some attention across luggage. They're hoping to make the delivery into the player who's currently sat there, but without any support, there's not really much else they can do. Empire have to try and draw some attention, draw some play away, and Joystick's just going to have to hot-foot it out of there because he knows they've got his number, but again, with that scarcity of information, he doesn't really know where.
Remember the win condition, burn time. It's on the attackers to make the move. All defender has to do is pitch a tent, relax and camp, and make sure that the attackers are just dropping the diffuser under your nose. And that's exactly what's happening. Empire just want to find an opening, but BDS are not biting. Oh, there it is. Always going to find a Renshiro. That's a hell of a bite you're looking for, and straight in the head. There's the first entry, but what happens after him?
Well, he's going to see if he can be a little bit studious inside the office as he just puts some danger onto the door, but here is that default, and there is a great take and a crossfire, and suddenly they flood their way through, but there's still one more body to take that revenge fight. They probably only expected a single cover, and we see the diffuser go down. We see another player go down just on the bottom of the blue stairs. The cool vibe is locked off and caught the tail of Niana, but that will give the game away on Rare where Fal is. However, the worst game is that they have the diffuser, they have the chassis spot, they also had upstairs, they also had the crossfire from the other side. Oh yeah, Empire, they made massive use of their time this time.
That's what I was talking about in the moment itself. It's you need the defenders to bite. When they bite, you go and sneak a plant. But what I love here is that it's not one player from Empire that walked into the bar to plant. It was actually 3 of them that went in to just make sure that with overwhelming power, even if one of us dies, we're still able to take the power position because we already have a man advantage. The worst case scenario is we trade and we get a plant down. That's a pretty worst case scenario if you ask.
Yeah, I mean, it's the cover for the cover for the cover. You've got to have your sort of setup there, and you could see it instantly afterwards as well. If this is the sign of Empire waking up, it was the approach on the post plant there. They'd gone up to go get that vertical lockdown. They had all the split angles. They knew where they wanted to be. And if anything, it sort of points to the story, as you said, of if they can try and force their pace into these approaches and attacks. That's what Coast is, because it really doesn't take long to find yourself holding F and staring at the ground and hoping for the cover. It takes sometimes just a bit of noise to be drawn. It takes just a bit of attention to be pulled. And that was the struggle they had on the first 2 rounds, as they played themselves against BDS's hold. Here, they drew some attention on the far side. They took that early engagement across the window, or the earliest engagement, and then from then on were able to just push onto the default. But we go back round onto the loop. We go back round onto Hookah, as we see BDS setting themselves up once again. Still with the Mozzie, still with the control of the information. DRX wasn't played on this site before.
Not much else. It's just the dock, which is an oddity. It's not common that we see. Oh well, there he is. He's going to make use of his. Honestly, we've been seeing a lot more Thunderbird than Doc nowadays, which that's why I'm kind of surprised that we don't see her in play versus the Doc. But you know what? Fair enough. They do similar jobs. Just hey, you don't want to give away power positions, which you're going to end up doing anyways on Coastline, and you'll probably be using your Kona stations in those spots, and if you lose them, that's free positioning for the attackers, extra healing. So I get that part of it. But Lems here spots out the hologram from the Yana, pokes around, there's nobody through, and you know what? It's very ballsy for him to sit down and making sure that nobody walks into that bedroom because everything is completely open around him, and suddenly that wall is going to get opened up bit by bit. The drone is in, the E1D comes out, and he's going to try to survive. A quick peek around. Alems, man, he's somehow still alive in this spot here, baiting things out for Shaiko.
The Doctor's doing his best, and the big change this time was, well, obviously they had the Lion in place, but they also had Dan stacked up on the lobby door, and that might have made things a little bit trickier for them to be able to pull away. Joystick's going to see if he can actually put some pressure onto Shaiko, but Shaiko's pulled just to a safety away from that, pepper some bullets to sort of remind them of his existence, and then sets himself on a slightly different path. That might take away some time, or it might give Empire this sort of lead-in of, okay, maybe we put some eyes towards Aquarium, maybe we see if we can open up the angles that we need from VIP, have that locked in where they're able to find one of their only successful kills on the previous take before things became a bit of a cost, or it's that control game. That control game that's been a bit of a question, and Lion has so far been the answer on the first, but will it be this continued problem for BDS?
I'm trying to figure out where the rest of the reinforcements were put, because there wasn't much that was used up on this side of the map. Just make sure that theater is, because usually you put at least one reinforcement in the back, maybe you have somebody to support you by the window or by the stairs. Wasn't the case here, just because billiards doesn't really require many reinforcements overall, but hey, fair enough. Shaiko will take a bit of damage through the wall from the Yana, as Shepard will rotate around and try to split over into that Aqua area. He's got Yana also waiting for him there in support. Renshaw is downstairs, and he's got an impact, so maybe that can help. But Shaiko will take down Joystick.
Swings the side, finds the chassis, and the E1D is going to roar out over the top, but Shaiko roars that little bit louder and in French. Joined by Bride and the cover of Scyther underneath, he's able to at least try and pull something back for the Russians, but unfortunately, not enough. A triple for Shaiko, a lock off on a BDS round, and they guarantee themselves an even half, but I guess at the beginning you would have probably said they want more. Empire is starting to wake up.
It looked like a really slow round, not gonna lie. Overall, Empire have been taking it slow. I think it's quite clear what's been going on here. But this last round was so incredibly slow by Empire, trying to kind of check through all the list that they have, all the items on the list as they get deeper and deeper into it. But yes, you got the first kill on Lems. What did that give you after it? What was the follow-up? There was none. Unfortunately, there was, okay, it took us a long time to get that kill. And yeah, Shaiko couldn't do anything. He lost Nitro. He couldn't do anything against this in that way. And the response should have been, let's lock down that rotation. But they didn't, and that's what had the Lion trying to walk up the stairs, 2 players kind of looking into it in cool vibes. Didn't get anything out of it. E1Ds just couldn't do anything. Just because you have a Lion or you have all this utility, if you can't use it properly, it might as well just not even exist. And with a ton of grenades and everything that Empire have on their side, you would be expecting a bit more, given the fact that there's only a Wamai on the other side in the best cases, which is not present in the last round.
Now, in terms of the comparison versus the Coastline map before as well, it's also worth sort of looking towards the situation of the operator selection. Thatcher was actually the removal from BDS last time. They've swapped it out for the Buck to see if they can limit the approach against what was a ferocious approach from Empire. And obviously, Dan dabbled with Thatcher before, and it didn't quite hit the mark on anything that they wanted to, so they've actually pulled themselves into a slightly different roster rotation. They're bringing the finger. They're trying to go with a little bit more aggression and a little bit more pace, hoping that it leads into the structure that they're able to...
What are you doing?
This is just drone sacrifice, you know, for the Mozzie.
Let's sacrifice the drone for it. Fair enough.
It's only the finals. It could be that the Kawana take where they lost 3 drones on that door within like 10 seconds or whatever it was.
Look, rewatching that specific moment it gave me an aneurysm. I was watching it even when Dez was reviewing it on his own stream. So fun times. But still, Dan is able to get a kill off of it. Renshiro, yet again, the first to fall, and even faster than we had earlier.
Dan getting his first for the game as well, and you're sort of looking at the Empire players that you expect to start to pop off, and they're not really. It's a very aggressive map. You kind of want Joystick there. You want to have Dan's name a few times. He's obviously sort of bounced between a couple of different roles and finds himself moving between the frag roles and not throughout the game. But at the same time, always in this sort of situation is this consistency. He's this player that for such a long time was that Empire player, even in the sort of darkest days that kept the fight up. Joystick with the pre-fire fight against the first finds Alems. The drone had just enough intel to be able to call out the location. Bride's going to see if he can move into the territory, but that drone sort of says no. Pushes him back, has to retake the top of cool vibes.
So Bride now lying down on the floor, knowing that always around the corner, actually 2 players that are sitting on, one in Hoka and downstairs. Also, they could pinch him, but utility is always the best thing to do. If you can use a grenade and get a kill off it, that would be great. A lot of damage done to Bride, and there's the finisher. Always great spot here to get the kill and continue opening things up here for the team. Shepard is already in. He's going in for the plant. Does he wait the nitro? No, he does not. It blasts it out the window. Habana, you're out. Shaiko is now watching, and they got free reign on that diffuser. That's an explosive way to get this one started. Rafael knows what's up. He turns around, does a lot of damage to his opponent, but even with that kill, it's still a 4v2 and a 4v1 now. Advantage for Empire. Scyther rounds the corner. Rafael is down, but we at least got a beautiful ride onto our show here. It's a fiesta.
A fiesta?
It's a fiesta.
Oh,
it's
wow.
the Cirque du Soleil as Hibana bounced out the window. What a beautiful show of gymnastics.
I could only imagine how chaotic a Cirque du Soleil with the Rainbow Six operators would be. I feel Oryx would definitely be a big part of it, I think.
Yes. His whole thing, genuinely, his whole ability is I go to the gym.
Yeah, loves the gym.
Yeah.
And loves standing outside of fortresses in the desert.
As one
I
does.
read the law.
As one does. And it is still the fortress of our good old Qaed. That,
He's not
that
here.
he's what's his name? Do you know what his family name is?
Oh, no, I don't read that much
Yeah,
lore.
you said you read lore. I know.
Yeah, I only read the lore on Twitter, so it's probably wrong. It's just like I read fan fiction.
It's Al-Fasi.
There you go.
There you go.
I
Al-Fasi.
don't know many of their actual names, actually.
Me neither, but that's the one I know. So, gotcha there. Backed into a corner. Always got to watch out. And it's Team Empire that's got to watch out here because 4-2 at the half for BDS is not going to look pretty. That's for sure. Now, what's the change for BDS? They're bringing out the Mute in this round and the Wamai Jaeger realizing that, hey, if Empire are so hell-bent on taking that vertical control, then we might as well bring 2 ops that can help us with it. There's the opener from Joystick here onto a Lems. Well done, Emmy.
It's everything I wanted from Empire. And I think
Watch this. Watch it. Watch it.
Oh,
Come on!
he's gone. He's out of here.
Beautiful.
Get out of here.
Get out of here.
It's everything I wanted from Empire. It's everything I wanted, and it's everything that they've sort of structured themselves towards. As I said, they started with the Thatcher. They started with what was a more traditional Coast take, which is a little bit of a slow take at some points, and a very structured Empire take here. And I think they need to lean into the chaos of this game, which they started to do. Dan's obviously juggled a couple of different operators, but all of them are leaning more into a more imminent firefight. They're trying to put the pressure back onto BDS, and it's worked. And that's what I mean with that sort of, you know, the last time we were in Hooker, it could have been a little bit back and forth, but it was still better from Empire. And if they can build themselves to an even half here and carry some of that energy onto their defense, they might be able to find just that little bit of sharpness to try and put some of the pressure back into Coast. Obviously, this is where I believe they wanted to go as well. This was their sort of opt and option, and okay, sure, SI might be round the corner, but you still want to go in, because how many times have these two teams been the top two teams of EU this year?
Like, all the time?
And you want to be the top team.
Yeah.
You want to be the one that ends that sentence of saying...
Trick question.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be the one that, when they say, who was the best EU team across the year, even if one of these two teams wasn't in this match, they still would have been a contender. Now they can prove it.
50,000 euros on the line. The number one team will get that amount of cash and a beautiful trophy. 50,000 euros in rubles is a lot of money, so Empire would love to have a chunk of that. They have to get through BDS, who, you know what, look pretty darn good here at the start. Good damage exchange, and actually Dan take it down quite low. There's the grenade in. It'll bounce right into the bottom of Cool Vibes. Nothing will be found. E1D is out, and Dan's still watching because they know that there's the Wamai around the corner. There's, though, the kill. Alem's taken down, but Rafal will shoot down Joystick. In the meantime, a 1-to-1 trade here between the two players. Not too bad of a trade. And Dan, realizing what he's up against, it's a long angle, still goes for the attempt, but calms down for a moment. 45 seconds left.
That's it. That's what Coast is. As I said, it's corner to corner. That's why you have all of these sight angles open. It's from that one corner that he's playing, just on the offside of the courtyard, around the table with a bit of the structure. He can get eyes towards the default plant. He can get eyes towards the door on the other site. There's no other maps that give you this much from a place that's kind of still secluded. It's so claustrophobic, but in this sort of uncomfortable way where actually everything's open. It's just you're always sort of being watched. There's a man being watched, Rafal, and once again he can now swing to a new potential place. Down on the door gives his impression away. Rafal gets a bit of a response and revenge, and while it's fair enough for him on the turn of the half, it's a BDS 4-2, and they've at least been able to sort of cement this opener as theirs.
And that's what the fear was. Empire, you cannot let it slip. You're on the attacking side. I say that, however, looking back at earlier today, by the way, spoilers! I just want to make it clear for everybody because I know some people do not like to be spoiled. Fair enough. I'll give you the space. I'm very accommodating in that way.
You're so lovely.
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 I'm lovely.
You're lovely.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely.
Apparently I did the worst impression of Tim earlier, yesterday, and I've got to work on it, so...
Keep it going.
I will.
Yeah, it's...
Okay, this is enough spoiler-free time. There was a result earlier.
Yes, there was a result earlier where we had G2 and Na'Vi that went to Chalet and Bank, two maps that we usually associate with the attacking side. However, those two actually started off fairly defensive-sided at the half, stood around 4-2 each. Not too shabby. So, hey, who knows? Maybe things would flip over in this series. We are on map 1 right now. On Coast, we'll move on to Chalet after this. And BDS has swapped over to the attacking side, with Empire picking Hookah as first site. Definitely not unusual. It is the default site for pretty much every single team. Aside from BDS, it gives you so much flexibility. You can extend all the way through into lounge or even into the cinema room as the media room, so which is exactly what you see Empire doing right now, with the Aruni passive. She punches through those walls and opens things up, and we know how powerful Aruni can be with the flexibility her kit allows her to have. There's the poke, and he's going to be checking into the spawn. The Lamborghini doorway!
Lamborghini doorway.
Let's go.
Zoom.
There's Max Verstappen. So.
There he is, celebrating.
Yeah.
A win that we've already
Hamilton did not want to join this event either.
Talking of being set off, There goes chat. Rafal is trying to find its way through onto blue. As I said, it's still these long angles with your attacks to defenders. Lems and Scyther are the ones to find one apiece. A very important C4 there because it shut the door on this approach. Joystick's able to at least put more pressure back into them, and suddenly that BDS approach that looked like it was on the teetering edge of tottering into the site goes a bit limp. It cannot quite find that momentum after those couple of losses, and now they've got to recheck everything. And on this map, that's a very cautious and time-consuming play.
Oh, there it is, 2 though. 1 by the next. Shaiko and Rafal will find Dan and Scyther respectively. And there's still Nitro Cell on the line here with Joystick. He's low in HP, but if he's in the right position, that can do a lot of work. He's actually getting quite aggressive, and he's going to find the kill to watch over the diffuser. Ballsy plays. When you're in a 3v2 and you're low on HP, you need to use every advantage, and sometimes players will go for plays like that because he's watching that diffuser. He can be comfortable with it, but Shaiko finds the head of always, and he's got to be careful here in maneuvering between the two sites as Joystick gets another, makes it a 3K for himself, and turns to a 1v1.
Now you gotta know what info they're using, whether it's drones or just the audio, but it's a heck of a lot of game sense either way. The call and the positioning to put and push the pressure on just the points that needed it puts us into this 1 versus 1. Rafal, he's gonna see if he can stick it in the backside of the smoke. The C4 is the tear and toe, and it doesn't quite go all the way, but now it's a bit of a battle fight on the backside of the billiards table. It's Rafal that gets the connection, and the sliver of health of Joystick may have been the fee paid, but the fare is a little bit too much for Empire, and BDS ride one more round.
That was such a close one, and honestly, from a player we don't get to talk about so much, it's Rafal, a player that in his support role does everything well. This is the kind of the problem when you're, especially in Rafal's position, it's not like you're the hard support, like BDS, but when you're this kind of flex support, more into the support side, you don't usually get talked about just because when you're doing well, the whole team is doing well, and you can't really see what's going on. In this case, the gunner actually does it. Everybody starts off as, you could hear it from Goga, Fabian, Pengu in the day. Everybody starts off as an Ash main and then slowly progresses into, hey, I'm going to diversify my roles. That's what happened.
It's called aging.
Yeah, we got old.
Young gunners
hey,
versus...
Our birthdays are in...
I know, you and I have birthdays a day apart from each other.
Yeah, my birthday's Tuesday. It's on a Tuesday.
Your birthday's on a Tuesday?
Yeah, and yours is on a Wednesday, so it's happy time.
Yes, my birthday's on a Wednesday. I'm very... Siege is happening, that's more exciting.
That's true. Plus, this is advice to future parents out there.
Yeah.
Try not having kids that, are born in the holidays. Terrible time for them. For you save a lot of cash on gifts, so there you go.
Yeah, you do, actually. Financially
stable.
Sound. 5-2. What isn't sound right now is Empire, because it's not been as runaway as the first couple of rounds would have suggested. Obviously, coming down to a 1 versus 1 is as tight as it can get, especially with the work that Joystick was doing. And as I sort of said, around the turn of the half, they're the players that you want to see step up into this showdown. They're the players that need to step up into a map like Coast, because not only is it an aggressive map, and at some points a hyper-aggressive map, but this first map is going to set the pace for the next couple. Until you start to hit that destruction, it's going to be that drive.
Look at the dedication to making sure this wall never gets open. 3 ADSs, a Rooney, and the whole shebang are just throwing in. Those ADSs are doing work. And another one copped in. All the grenades being wasted 1 by 1, and the mute jammer cannot be taken away. Was the Twitch able to destroy the jammer? I don't think so. Oh, Redshirt is going to take it into his own hands. Joystick walks in and gets taken out. Shaiko with another, but it's a refrag from always onto a Lems, and suddenly turns to a 4v3 with the smoke trying to hold down the fort until his teammates come back to support.
Actually sort of ludicrous there. When you've run out of things to throw Renshiro. and it works. And it pulls off the kill. They still couldn't get the wall open, and it was a split second away. You actually saw the frag as Shaiko sees the frag onto Scyther and gets a little bit more of a momentum on the kitchen side. You saw it bounce around. If it was cooked for a split second longer, it would have taken out everything in that corner. In the meantime, though, Shaiko is taking out everything in every corner. Rafal suffers a little bit against something. I'm not entirely sure where that's just happened, but with always having a lot of time, he's just going to find Shaiko. It gives the game away, and Rafal puts BDS on map point.
And that F2 is doing just so much work for Rafal in this case. Understandable. We've seen Twitch do a lot of work today in our first matchup. Highly recommend you go back and watch it because it's going to be a bit of a dry spell, at least in between the SI qualifiers. And hey, it's time to look back at what happened in EUL and NAL and learn from the different regions. One of those things that you should probably be learning is, how do I play Twitch better? Because Twitch is so much stronger than what she was even a few months ago. Having an extra drone in the prep phase, having your 2 drones that you can leave into the round, it gives you a lot of flexibility, infinite range on your ability as well with the drone. You can snipe utility from miles away, and it's beautiful to see how such a big drone can just be maneuvered around the map, psyching out.
That's the coolest thing.
Yes.
Like an old RC car.
Honestly, I am surprised at just the motor that.
It's a feat of engineering.
Genuinely so.
It is over 100 miles of cable, or whatever the thing she says. She says something like that.
Does she?
Yeah, about how much cable's in it.
100 miles of cable.
I don't know.
First up, 100 miles. Not something a French one would be saying, but fair enough. I'll give you that one. Well.
Kilometers.
You could wrap the Eiffel Tower in the cables that are inside.
6-2, Empire, this is your sort of map, and this is not your sort of map so far. BDS have been really good, and I think it's one of the things where Coastline was always going to be who was hotter. If you have a longer showdown and you have Coastline at the top, Coastline is going to define itself based on who has woken up more at the beginning of the showdown, which Empire hadn't. And as I said, they had a bit of sharpness at the turn of the half. They still have some of that, but BDS have also grown. BDS have also cooked up into this game a little bit more. Those swings, Renshiro flinging himself around the corner to find the fight against Joystick, who is waiting for just that fight. That is the prime example of just who has come into this a little bit hotter.
And you can tell that BDS are just looking good into this. They're confident in their gunfights. To take this sort of play, this sort of engagement, that requires a lot of confidence in yourself and in your teammates. Rafal's drone will be destroyed. It gives the alert that, hey, there is an opponent right next to you to deal with by the doorway. Inside there's going to be checking through the hallways. There's nobody around in there. It's still a 5v5 with Dan having taken a bit of damage there, but there's the entry always onto Rafal, finally shutting down that Twitch and one of the flanks being completely closed off. That's the Lamborghini down and dusted. Other supercar manufacturers are available.
Yes, yes they are.
For all the supercar buyers out there.
Well, there is a double for always. And again, if we're going to highlight Joystick as a player that you sort of want to see step up, there's always that you want to see step up to. Scythe has been a good consistency leading on to a great consistency as he finds another 2 for his tally and locking off on a flawless round. It's kind of that perfect little moment now for Empire to sort of try and retake some of this pace. Okay, they've got to do it every single round, at least define it, but here, there's no better start.
They're definitely getting confident. This is the thing with Empire and longer series, that they need a moment to kind of wake up into, and you can arguably say that this is the case for both of these teams. In this case, they're warming up. It's 6-3, and they've finally woken up. Maybe too little, too late. Who knows? We still have a few rounds to figure out if this goes to overtime anyways, in which case Empire can defend their position, at least for this very first map in the series.
That's it. It's a best of 5. Hey, when do we have a best of 5 at this? So that was yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Spoiler alert, if you don't want to know what happened yesterday. 3, 2, 1. The first 2 maps went one way. What happened on the other 3?
They went a certain way that is the opposite.
Oh yeah, reverse sweep.
You know, what they say is for every action,
Yeah.
there is an equal and opposite reaction. And sometimes that equality is a bit more to one side than the other, which renders it moot because it's not equality at that point, is it?
It's inequality.
You're following the physics class. That's exactly what we had.
I know.
Well, here, everything is added in, everything's transforming, and nothing is disappearing. We're just brushing up on our chemistry at the same time. It's finals before going to holidays.
Geo with her physics degree.
Geo is on another
really
level.
mad at me right now.
She is so much more intelligent than I'll ever be in that way, so understandable. Well, 5v5 to start things out, and we see a Mira being bred up here for Empire. Unusual, I have to say.
Okay, it's unusual because it used to always go.
Yeah.
Mira used to be the insta-removal. When removals were first introduced and Pickban was first introduced into Com Siege, Mira and her map was a constant. It wasn't even like on other maps where it was like an 80%. She just wasn't allowed to play on Coast because
we were also banning cosplayers that cosplayed as Mira.
they weren't allowed in. If Coastline was on the board, Mira cosplayers, you got to sit outside.
All of it.
You got to wait for this game to be done because she just offered so much, and especially around the penthouse sort of side of the building, not just if it was the site, but also it's the way the sort of corner is structured or onto 90, and it's the build-up and the location that can offer. Jaiko offers the first, finds one more, and keeps himself toe-for-toe on the tally, with Dan getting some quick revenge.
But a shot from Dan. He's low on HP, but he's done the work anyways in the round, clocking up stairs, making sure that he's got the barriers in front of him, that he can survive for a bit longer. Rafael knows that he rotated away, but he can't really do anything about it from his top position on the roof. Going in for the drone, getting some info, maybe sniping a bit of utility in the meantime. And speaking of which, one of those bits of utility that was probably sniped, not gonna know exactly how that went down the Mira window. Either was it a Twitch drone, was it something the defenders actually did on their own? Well, we don't know, but we're going to assume that something nice happened. It's going to allow a bit of more space for the attackers to kind of put pressure on their opponents, as Dan is still on that low HP with a minute or so left.
It's a little bit of an upheaval here. It's a little bit of trying to find something in this final minute. It's obviously been a bit back and forth, and now the burn comes to the top of Cool Vibes. They're going to see if they can uproot this player, which is a bit of a back hold. Hey, there's a root and there's a up. And he's been shown it and the door as he's removed, and they're able to try and finally build some of the pressure. And some of the earliest pressure we've actually seen across both these two teams to the site. It's the double underneath the window with the swing round on the close side. That means it's a bit awkward because he's got to fight the first here onto that side, and he sees the tip of the gun, and the second is behind the bar. But in the meantime, Alems is doing everything to offer him some more BDS. Take this first map in a little bit of casual calm fashion for what is the opener of a game that you kind of want to heat up a little bit more.
Yeah, I definitely want to, especially for myself. You know, it's not every day that I get to go in and cast, and if this is what we're gonna get, honestly, I'm
you a bit sad.
I'm a bit sad, but thankfully I'll be back for the second one. At least I'm told.
Yeah, if it goes to a fourth map.
No, I'm actually coming back for the second one.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad they informed me.